making 8,000 tons a year. They put a post office up in Franklin Iron Works. That was the official name of the name of the post office in at this time. And here we have 200 men, 24 houses on Furnace Street, 24 houses for the workers. And I'm sure some farm hands probably came in from the surrounding areas too, who walked to work or maybe drove a horse or a buggy, I don't know. So it was not just the workers on Furnace Street, but as it says here, they had 250 or 300 men sometimes with a $12,000 payroll per month. How's that for a deal? Not bad, I guess, if you're making $1 an hour. They made some repairs at that time, and during this revival, they were able to produce over 30 tons. But they had 30 tons of coke and the ore and the limestone, and the railroad by this time was in. The O&W came in 1869, or 1867, I guess it was. So now the railroad was bringing coal, iron ore, and limestone right to the blast furnace. That was a big help, and taking away the ignites or the manufactured items. And there was also, and I'll show you in a few minutes, there was a railroad, there was a spur up on Willow Hill, which to me is a little hard to believe because it's quite a steep hill. Anyhow, this shut down in 1900, reopened for a couple of years, and restarted again, and shut down again. And finally, in 1912, they took down the blast furnace. Okay, so here's a map showing town of Kirkland, and here we are. We're right here right now at the corner of Fountain Street and Kellogg Street. And again, this is where it says Franklin Iron Manufacturing Company. If you were closer, you could see that. They had the mineral rights. And I've tried to trace who owns the mineral rights now. Does anybody here today live over these areas, your homes? Do you have the mineral rights yourself? Well, about 20 years ago, I did some research with, what's it, Paul Dreja? Is he still up there? Still your neighbor, Peter, Paul Dreja? Up on the left. He ran a title company in Utica. And he said at that time, somebody in Florida had the mineral rights. Now, they're not going to come and dig up your house, don't worry about it. But he was trying to clear titles. He sometimes used to have to call or send this guy some paperwork, and he would sign off on this mineral rights. So there might be mineral rights. Check your deed. You might have maybe somebody in California owns your mineral rights. Okay, this is the last shaft up on Brimfield Street that was sunk in 1927 by the Metallic Paint Company. And it's on the right, as you go beyond Dawes Ave. Right now there's a new house sits back there in Tom Britcher's old pasture. And then there's a driveway into that house. And then if you look closely in the winter, after the snow melts and before the spring brush comes up, you'll see the old foundation for this building. And it was right there on across from where Mickey Thurston used to live. If anybody knew Mickey Thurston, who worked in the mines, it's right across from his house. And there were some other buildings outside for showers and for the men and so forth. But this was the last vertical shaft. And it says here, you can't read it, but it says 1,500 feet in opposite directions. Whoops, excuse me. And here's a map. What happened? What do you do, Jim? Call Jim. What did I do? No, it's not working. Well, there it goes. It was right there. From current side.
It'll take a minute.
Hopefully. There. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this was the last vertical shaft. This is where once the blast furnaces were torn down or demolished in 1912, the only use for this iron ore was for the paint mill up in Franklin Springs. And I'll show you some pictures of that in a few moments. But now back to this picture. This is a very good map, or a schematic. It's not really supposed to be a half a mile. Okay, here is Kellogg Street. Here is New Street. Here is Brimfield Street. Here is Dawes Ave. Here is Sherman Brook, winding its way down through. The the picture I just showed you of the structure over the mine entrance was up here on Brimfield Street, east of Dawes Ave, right here. Okay, but notice all these lines are tunnels under the ground. So they went down, and then somehow they also went in here off New Street. There was a heading, and also off Brimfield Street over in this area there was another. Oops, there we go. Excuse me. There were other entrances too, but these are the ones that were shown on a map that I found about 1910. So all these lines were tunnels, and they weren't very high. You had to stoop basically most of the time. If you were a laborer, you were always, bent over. And they used dynamite. They had picks and shovels, and just terrible conditions before the days of OSHA. And there were injuries. People were maimed. People were killed because of accidents in the mines. But this gives you an extent, a little bit of the situation, and it went across the street up here too. That would be McMarley's apple orchard now, I think. So, any questions about that? So, yeah, speak up. They're down about 60 feet from this site. From this site right here, they were down about 60 feet. Then they went laterally. Yep. Now here is a picture of the Willow Hill. An opening like this is called an adit, A-D-I-T. I hope I'm not being too technical here, but it's called an adit. So here it is. It's where they come out of the side of a hill. And why this guy is standing there with his tie on, I don't quite know, but anyhow. But they had railroads. They had small railroads in the mines. They brought the ore out on these small rail cars, and sometimes pulled by a mule or a horse, or pushed out. So this is one up on Willow Hill. And about 30 years ago, some high school kids got in there and got lost for about a day. And so they dumped a load of ore. That's all hematite ore, just like this. They dumped that over the entrance now. So no more excursions into the mine. Now this is if you park across from Pete Burns' house and walk in, is that driveway still there, Pete? Yeah. When it rains, do you see the red here? Do you see the red or not? Well, that's the ore. When it rains, the puddles are all red. And that adit, what I just showed you, is in there on the right. And notice that there's still, I took these pictures about, maybe 25 years ago, so I haven't been in there recently. But there still was some iron or concrete work, I'm not sure what was on top of this, probably a building of some sort. So there was you can see the red paths, the puddles. You can see the remains of a foundation of a building. This is Mud Creek that crosses Brimfield Street and that dip just east of Dawes Ave. You know where that is? And Mud Creek crosses Utica Street down by Robinson, not Robinson. What? Help me out. Robinson Road, yeah. It's parallel to Robinson Road, but it goes right down through the mines off Brimfield Street. And again, this is the same thing. I won't keep this on the screen because it shows the same area here around. This is Kellogg Street. This is New Street. This is Brimfield. Okay, some other pictures that have survived. Bucyrus is a city in Ohio. It also has been a manufacturer for years of Bucyrus heavy equipment back into the 1880s. And here you see a steam shovel. Whoops. Right here, and you have some horses and some wagons. So again, this has really heavy equipment. This was not just a guy with a pick and shovel. There was a railroad that went up to Willow Hill, which I can't quite figure out because there's quite an elevation there. But here's some old buildings, and it shows the tracks right here. Some more pictures of up on Willow Hill with the horse-drawn wagons. I'm not sure if they're going to the mines or coming from them or what. Here again is Franklin Iron Works for another view. That was me 25 years ago. 125. A long-range view, not a very good one. A little close-up of some horses with a wagon, some teamsters there. I'm not sure what this picture is, but it was with a rather mined picture, so I thought I'd show it to you. I don't know. They're mostly horses. Well, I guess it looks like a mule's ear. Is that a mule's ear? I don't know. You can name it anything you want. I guess they're coming out of the mine here. I'm not sure what this is. Now, just a minor point, but how many of you people here have pictures in your drawers someplace that are uncaptioned, with no names on or dates on them? Don't be bashful. You all do, don't you? Yes, you all do. Shame on you. Because as an historian, there's nothing worse than coming across a clipping from a paper or a picture with no dates, no names, no nothing. It becomes worthless. So all I'm telling you people, and I'm guilty to myself to some extent, but if you have your desk full of pictures or clippings, put some dates and some names on them. Otherwise, you might as well throw them out. No historical society wants a picture without a caption. It's no good. End of my sermon. This is, I think, miners, but it's a very poor picture, but whoops. Let's see, back up here. Okay. Then we had an ironworks over in Kirkland. Did you know that? On Route 5, called the Seneca Turnpike, because it was one of the first roads the state built out to Canandaigua in the 1790s. It was just east of Oriskany Creek. You know where the Oriskany Creek that floods every 10 minutes over there? It was just east of there. There used to be a big outdoor advertising billboard there. I think the billboard's gone. There's a little white house there now, I believe. But it was just west of the creek and south of Route 5. You with me? Okay. And this is a view, I think, from, well, I'm not really sure. This might be the road, but I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. But about 20 years after they built the Franklin furnace, they built the Kirkland furnace. This was called the Clinton Iron Works over in Kirkland. And it was not too successful, but they did have $100,000 of stock. And here are some of the people who invested in it. It was similar to the one in Franklin, 90-foot high elevator, 48-foot high stack house, a cast house, 110 by 50, all brick, a wheelhouse. They could do 13 tons a day of pig iron. It took 80 men to build it, and they generated their own steam and their own power. They got their ore from Kirkland Hill area on Bristol Road, so they got some of their ore from over there. Limestone from Post Street Quarry. But this had a very poor life, I guess you might say. It closed and they opened up again, it closed and opened up, and it was not so successful at all. Finally, in only a few years after it opened, they sold the bankrupt, so it was sold to the courthouse, 42 acres, land, water, privileges, and Theodore Dwight ended up with it. But then in '84, some more men came in and more money came in. They tried again. And in 1884, but again, large debts, judgments against them. And again, the Mesabi Range out in Minnesota started coming in now with a higher quality of ore, which really doomed the Clinton hematite as a competitor. Some men laid off, and the paper had an interesting comment that said, probably they left without settling their store bills. Of course, back then, we didn't have credit cards. You went to the store, and you said, I want to buy a quart of milk or whatever, and they put on their ledger, and once a month, you go in and pay off your bills, right? Hopefully. Well, they didn't all pay off their bills. This was taken down in 1913. And by the way, I didn't say this, but on that site, before the blast furnace was a cotton mill. There was a cotton mill there in Kirkland for many years. That burned down. Here's the Kirkland building. Again, I don't understand what the process is, so I can't explain it to you, but okay. They got their fancy clothes on here. These are, again, the Kirkland, here's this Route 5, I guess, with a buggy. See the buggy? Now, by this time, the railroad was coming through Clinton, so there was a spur, there was a Roman Clinton line that went from Rome to Clinton, by the way, and they had a spur into the site here. So they received their coal and limestone and stuff by rail. Here's some more current miners, and I'd say in maybe the 1900s, early 1900s, up on Brimfield Street, I'm assuming. Again, no names. We don't have any names on these pictures, unfortunately. Another miner. Must have been terrible work. It was always about 58 degrees down the mines. It was never got colder, never got warmer, you know. But it must have been terrible conditions with dust and possibility of injury. Here's aren't very good pictures, but it does show you here's a big support. Here's some rail lines here. You see that rail lines here? So they'd shovel the ore onto these little carts on the rails, and either a donkey or they'd push the carts out themselves, and they would somehow go out through the adit on the side of the hill, or in the case of the vertical mines, they would be pulled up vertically. Here's some more pictures of the ore, and you know, doesn't look too straight to me, does it? What do you think? Kind of cramped quarters, I'd say. And again, let's see, this is the Brimfield Street mine. That's the building I've shown you before. And one of the outbuildings. And they had a miner's washroom. How's that for? Look at all the sinks there. Of course, they came out all red. After working the mine all day, they were all filthy red, dust. So I don't know if they showered every day or every half hour. I don't know. And again, here's more of the buildings up on the Dawes Ave site. This is 1920, it says. Now this is quite a picture. It's at the Willow Hill by that adit that I showed you where the guy was standing earlier. I never tried to count all the people in here, but there must be a couple hundred people there, right? And I guess these are all the miners. There's a rail line going in. The adit's right there. You can't really see it. There's a guy on a horse back there. You see him? So, you know, again, it was a large situation, a large company with a lot of employees, and semi-successful for many years. I don't know where this is, but this might have been their picnic or their clam bake because they're all dressed up. Okay, turning to the last few years of the iron ore industry. As I said, the mines, or the blast furnaces were both torn down in 1912. So what was left? What was left was this one shaft up on Brimfield Street by Dawes Ave. And the Clinton Metallic Paint Company had started back in 1888 by William Bristol and John Myers. Now, just to digress for a moment, you may have heard of Bristol Myers Company that makes aspirin and something. They're now called Bristol Myers Squibb. They were formed in Clinton, New York, over the Andrea's, whatever that store is on West Park Road there. They were a pill factory in 1888. Myers and Bristol were Hamilton College graduates and formed that company. Unfortunately for Clinton, they went to Syracuse after 2 years. I gotta take a drink. This is not iron ore. Good Clinton water. Okay, so Bristol is one of the oldest family names in Clinton. You know, we have Kellogg's and we have Gridley's.